is 9:25. You're listening to Wake Up with Heather Bambrick on Canada's premier jazz station, JazzFM91. One might easily think that the minds, and sometimes bodies, behind the puppets of the Jim Henson Company probably don't have much of an off switch when it comes to humor and creativity. It's probably not surprising that performing mainly children's shows might also lead artists to bottle up some of their less than innocent trains of thought. Well, all of that comes to a head in Puppet Up Uncensored, a show where the art of puppetry and the spontaneous improvisational humor meet. It's in a limited engagement at the Panasonic Theatre, and the show's director, co-producer, Patrick Bristow, and one of the actors as well, Michael Oosterom, and puppeteer as well, join me in studio this morning to shed a little bit more light on this intriguing show. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to have you both here.
Thank you, Heather. Happy to be here.
Now, okay, first of all, I know, Michael, we were just talking about you coming to the show as a legitimate, quote-unquote, stage actor.
Legitimate is an interesting phrase, but yes.
And of course, Patrick, you've done a little bit of everything. You're improv artist and character actor, and you've done movies, you've done sitcoms and the whole bit. How did each of you end up coming to do something like this?
Well, I was brought in by Brian Henson to teach improv classes to a group of puppeteers that he hired on a regular basis because he wanted them to have the improv skill, kind of in their quiver, as it were, to enhance their performances. And we did these classes for a couple months, and they all took to it like ducks to water. And I suggested, hey, maybe we should do a little performance at lunchtime for the other employees on the Henson lot, just to give the improv students a chance to really do it in front of an audience. And, of course, Brian, who does not do things by half measures, he booked out the soundstage on the Henson lot, got bleachers, an invited audience of 200.
Come on.
Yeah, and there was wine and cheese and everything, and I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. And the show kind of happened accidentally and organically. It was never intended to be a show. We just did that as a demonstration of what we were working on. And then we got picked to go to the Aspen Comedy Festival, then Edinburgh, then Australia, and it just took off. So it's really the happiest accident, of all. And Michael was brought into classes, after we'd already kind of started it going. And again, he's a natural, and then he learned a lot from me, right, Michael?
I learned everything from Patrick Bristow.
Thank you.
How difficult is it to do the puppetry in this? I mean, if you're an improvisational actor, you know what to do. You know to look for cues, and there's the beauty of improv, of the communication and the nonverbal cues and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
I took a class. But puppetry is a different animal now, so how do you work with that?
It is. It's difficult to learn, for sure. It can be very tricky to learn. For one thing, you'll notice when you come see the shows, we work with television monitors, so we're always looking down at the ground. And in improv, you tend to look the other part, your scene partner, in the eye. That's like tantamount to begin a scene. We can't do that. And the tricky thing about those monitors is the image is backwards. So if I move my puppet to the left, it enters the camera to the right. Now, that's difficult to learn, but once you learn it, it is a bit like riding a bike. Every once in a while, your brain will kind of twitch and you'll forget where you are for a second. It happens to the best of us. But once you get that skill set, you pretty much are off to the races. Then there are advantages to working with a monitor, too. Like a puppet can sneak up on another puppet, and you can play, I don't know that's happening, but then you can, make it pay off and stuff. So there's pros and cons. And it is a little mental, but we're all a little mental, so it works out fine for us.
And some more than others. Yeah, he brings up an interesting point, which is that there are gifts of doing, this kind of improv, and then we had to adjust the techniques of classic improv a little bit because there was no eye contact. Little minute expressions that say a lot. The puppets don't have them. They've got fixed eyes for the most part and a kind of a yappy mouth. And the puppeteers are really good at getting as much expression out of these inanimate objects as possible. But it requires that they use their voice really well and that they are excellent ear listeners. The Henson technique was developed for TV, where your TV screen became a puppet theater, right? Like a Punch and Judy little window. Yeah. That had not been done before. And the reverse monitor thing he was talking about, where if their puppet moves to the right, they see it move to the left. They have to build new neural pathways just to do what we do for the show. So it takes a long time often in the training.
Right.
Yeah.
So this really ultimately sort of demands the best of improv and the best of puppetry, because you do have to get those subtleties through the puppetry and the movements. But the improv, like you say, it's a whole other skill set.
Absolutely. And, it's multitasking to an incredible degree. You know, I would imagine it's like being on ice skates, dribbling a basketball down the rink, and you have to shoot it into hoops in a certain color, you know, a color-coded number kind of system. Like, it's just something that is impossible.
Right.
And
While
the fact,
texting.
Yeah, while texting, yes. And the fact that it can be done at all just amazes me. Now, I don't puppeteer.
Okay.
All right? I sit off on the side. I get the suggestions from the audience. I'm hosting the show.
Gotcha.
But I don't have to go through their pain.
I will say, though, there's something about it when you do it for a while. The puppetry is a little demanding, and the improv is a little demanding, and there's so much going on that you don't have time to think, which is the best place to be in an improv situation.
Yes.
You're just listening and reacting and being. So there's enough stuff being thrown at us that we get into our happy little zen place, and everything's fine. So.
I'm here with Patrick Bristow and Michael Oosterom from Puppet Up Uncensored. Now, you just mentioned the things that are being thrown out there, so let's go there. How uncensored is it?
Well, you know, we don't endeavor to be smutty or shocking. However, when you get, you know, hundreds of adults there who get to tell the puppets what the scenario is, what they're doing, where they work, you can best believe, especially after a glass of wine or two, that they're going to say, they're having a Brazilian wax. Well, you know, just by nature of that, you know, that very noble profession, it's going to go some places where, well, I think it's noble, where, you know, the kids, you might not want the kids in the room, and if there are kids there, then it makes it uncomfortable for other adults to laugh at stuff. So we get dark sometimes. We get, you know, certainly a little risque and naughty at other times, but we've had shows that didn't really steer that direction because the audience didn't steer it that direction, you know? So I think the irreverent humor, the intelligent nonsense, you know, kind of thing, this is the other side of the Henson Company. This has existed for years, but people haven't seen it. You know, by all accounts, Jim's personal sense of humor was pretty wicked.
Yeah. If you Google some of those early coffee commercials Jim Henson made before the Muppets, every one of them ends with one puppet murdering another puppet.
Yeah, and these were commercials on TV selling coffee.
Yeah.
And, you know.
You don't drink Wilkins coffee? Boom. I'm going to blow you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically, this is kind of what happened once the director yelled cut and the scene went on.
Absolutely.
That's exactly the way Brian Henson describes it.
Yeah.
You know, this is what was happening before action and after cut.
I love that.
Yeah.
With the success of shows like Avenue Q, you know, it won the Tony back in 2003, I think, for Best Musical, and now this. Do you feel there's some sort of almost like an embracing of the dichotomy of the innocence of a medium like puppetry with this, you know, I want to see what I can get away with here, or not even see what I can get away with, but like you say, adults throwing in the most, you know, the oddest and most challenging of scenarios. Do you get a sense that people are almost embracing this? It's like that little sort of double-edged sword. It's innocent and it's not.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the magic of it, you know. The puppets can get away with murder. They can say things, they can do things that if you were improvising or acting just in your own body, you might be held accountable for.
Right. But if it's a weasel wearing a Hawaiian shirt, then something about it inherently innocent, I guess.
And we have that.
Do you?
We have, well, it's a possum actually,
It's
but
a
yes,
possum,
but he's wearing like a Hawaiian bowling shirt kind of thing. Yeah,
It's
that's what he hangs in.
Very natty.
But he doesn't have anything from the waist down.
None of them do.
Where do the puppets come from?
They come from a wide variety of different Henson projects. So they're very different styles. You know, there's a lot of woodland creatures. There are some that go back, I think, as far as Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. You know, these little woodland creatures and things. Yeah. Some of them come, frankly, from pilots that maybe didn't get off the ground. So there's a beautiful puppet that was going to waste in a box somewhere, and then Patrick and Brian picked out puppets they thought would work well with an improv company. So you'll see all kinds of humanoids and strange little monsters and little animals and birds and things like that.
Yeah, the visual vocabulary of these, you know, 80 puppets that we travel with is varied. You know, you've got the realistic looking ones, and you've got, you know, like a orange monkey with button eyes. Yeah. You know, that looks like it could be at home on like a little girl's bed, you know, as one of her stuffed animals. So that eclectic aspect really supports the improv endeavor. I think I just said what he said, but more pretentiously.
It sounds beautiful. I oddly enough, I understood both, so there you go.
Good. Wow.
So many more questions, but I think probably the best way to get them answered is to go to see the show.
Yes.